Okay. Good morning. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thanks for joining me again this week at our early start time. I hope everyone is staying well. This is the 69th installment of the weekly virtual office hour address. We've now reached 480 days since the March 16th, 2020 county health order started the whole shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of COVID-19. And more than a year ago, I converted my coffee shop hours into these virtual live stream addresses, and I haven't missed a week since. I'm now doing a little bit of both. I'm doing the live stream and then moving to being seen downtown to start meeting with people. So if you want to see me face to face, you can meet me on Murphy Avenue after this. People still say they enjoy hearing from their mayor. These weekly sessions are good for me because they allow me to reflect on what's happened the last few weeks, and they also give me a chance to provide you some useful information, answer some of your questions, and of course just provide some general words of encouragement. You know, I'm really happy that this has really worked out well. It's kind of done. It's been a video log to some degree of what's happened over the last year. It allows people to get some information if they're not able to join us on a Friday morning. So thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale. I hope everyone continues to stay well and healthy, and I hope you're enjoying the summer so far. As I've mentioned before, I'll be changing my background art every week, and this art is provided by the Sunnyvale Art Club, Sunnyvale Artists. Today's piece is called FIESTA. It's another piece by Geeta, Taneja. Very, very colorful, very festive, kind of what our summer is hopefully going to be. So if you want to purchase that art, please reach out to me and I'll put you in contact with that artist. So let's go ahead and get started on what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last 2 weeks. Need to stay hydrated. Last Monday, the governor signed the eviction moratorium legislation into law. So this is AB 832. And so this extends the current eviction moratorium through September 30th. And it was, the previous eviction moratorium was set to expire on June 30th. So just under the deadline. The state legislators negotiated that bill, put it in front of the governor, and it was signed. This is really important to protect our, small mom and pop landlords as well. Most importantly, protects our working families, and allows a little more time to recoup the back rent as well as kind of increase what's being put forth from a state standpoint. So and so I think this was a big thing because it improved help for both the tenants and the landlords. Most importantly, it streamlined the application process. I've heard of people that had applied back in March and still haven't received any money, or a few that finally did receive money in the last week or so, and that doesn't help. There's a lot of people that have actually moved from their old apartment to another location, and so it's figuring out how to cover that. But from a reimbursement standpoint, it actually increased the coverage to 100% for both the rent that is past due and prospective payments for those tenants and those landlords. For those that have already applied and received funds, they will automatically get additional funds to cover that 100%. So that's actually been very positive as opposed to the 75% that was covered previously. It also allows a tenant to receive the full amount due if the landlord doesn't want to participate in the program. So the tenant doesn't have to carry the debt. Previously, the state would cover 75% if the landlord said that it wouldn't evict, and provide certain provisions. This allows the tenant to actually receive those funds if the landlord doesn't want to meet what the state is doing. And then it also allows the landlord to recoup funds if the tenant's moved out and moved on to a new place, but still owes previous rent payments to the landlord. So this is just good overall. from a funding standpoint and just providing rental assistance to those that really need it. And, especially it tries to prevent the negative impacts to people's credit for, back rent or rent owed due to the COVID, basically COVID and losing their job or whatever the issues were from a health standpoint. So that was actually very positive. And then also last Monday, Governor Newsom sued the Secretary of State to basically have his party affiliation listed in the upcoming recall election. On the ballot, he basically will not have, at least the way things currently stand, not have any party affiliation listed. And so he had a filing mistake when he was filling out his paperwork last fall for the recall election. And basically, Newsom wants to require that all recall ballots list his party preference as Democratic, and I know most people know that he's the Democratic candidate and our Democratic governor. That being said, the Secretary of State basically said in beginning of June that she declined, since her office has the ministerial duty to accept timely filed documents. And so even though they were wrong, whatever was filed before the deadline date is what the Secretary of State wants to go with. So we'll see where that goes through in the courts. Definitely, I think the governor has an uphill battle because, especially, your ballot statement and how things are listed on the ballot, you have chances to change it up to a certain date, a filing deadline, and after that date, it would be quite a bit of effort to make any changes. Last Tuesday, Council had a very long meeting. We had 9 items on the agenda and about 15 consent items. The meeting started with a special order of the day declaring July as Parks and Recreation Month, and we kind of highlighted all the things that our Parks and Rec staff have done over the last year, and that includes our library staff and library services, from Hands in the Arts and those programs to basically keeping our parks usable. And we've had more people use our parks in the last year under COVID than ever before. So it's fantastic that those services, and Sunnyvale continues to strive to add parks within our city and making sure that we have appropriate open space for everyone to enjoy the outdoors in our city. And then as far as the main meeting, our long list of items included several things, but the big thing was adopting an emergency ordinance to suspend evictions for non-payment of rent. That was going to be probably a very long discussion. That being said, from a state standpoint, they had finally signed that into law the day before. So because of the state changes, as I just talked about, council didn't have to take any action from that standpoint. We did introduce a new ordinance to change our below market rate ownership housing. And so, from a historical standpoint, Sunnyvale's been very forward thinking of requiring both inclusionary housing, meaning affordable housing of some level, moderate or very low, for both apartments and for sale condos for many years. And from a below market rate condo standpoint, we put in a 10% requirement back in the 1980s. We moved that to 12.5% in 2003, and then we did 15% last Tuesday night, which I think was really good. I've been pushing on that issue for since I was back on the Planning Commission in about 2007 or 8. I'm happy that we finally moved that forward. For 15% for condos, we had recently re-implemented, when things finally changed to the state level, that we could reintroduce the inclusionary requirement for apartments. We did that for 15% for apartments back in 2003. And so that to me was that disparity of 12.5% for sale, and then 15% for apartments never really made sense to me. And so I thought, if we finally, when we were allowed to reintroduce the apartment inclusionary requirement last year, we moved that to 15%, 5% very extremely low, and 10% low or very low from an apartment standpoint, and then and that was so ultimately 15% of apartments, and now 15% of condos that are being built. And that also has a positive thing of having a 30-year deed restriction, so that somebody can't qualify for the program and then immediately sell that condo to someone else and recoup what the equity might be between the difference of what they bought it for and what they might be able to sell it for. So a 1.1 or 1.2 million dollar condo might be selling for $450,000-$500,000, and then it's a 30-year deed restriction. So if they decide to sell it, it has to go to somebody else that would also apply for that program. So it might go a small percentage increase, but another, if they sold it within 5 years, there'd be some equity, but a limited amount of equity that they'd be able to recoup. And then that new person that would also be qualifying into that program would have a new 30-year deed restriction. So it actually works out to kind of maintain a certain amount of affordable housing spread throughout both the apartments and the condos that are currently being built in the city. And then we also appointed our applicants, our commissions to our redistricting commission. And so we appointed 7 primary members and 6 alternates from a pool of 22 applicants. So it was a long portion of the meeting, because we actually had to go through and first do voice votes on all the applicants, and then start choosing them from what district they were living in, and then also choosing those alternates. And so that was actually a good portion of the meeting. That redistricting commission actually had its first meeting last night, so it was good to sit in on part of that meeting and hear how that meeting went. It sounded like it went very well. So I'll be talking to several of their members, but happy to see that process has started moving forward. And then last Thursday, our Lieutenant Governor, Kounalakis, set the date for the recall election as early as September 14th. And so that sets off let's say, 10-week burst of campaigning. So it starts out with basically about 2 weeks where where all of the people that are running for governor can either get several thousand signatures or pay money. And so we'll have a large number of candidates, it looks like, for the September recall election. And we'll see how that settles out in the next week or so, when we finalize what that list looks like. Sunday, of course, was Independence Day. So we definitely, thanks for those that safely enjoyed their Independence Day holiday. There were lots of complaints about fireworks, of course. Thanks for those of you that conceivably went to, like, Great America, enjoyed the fireworks there, where it was done professionally, large scale, all that. But for the last few weeks, we've had issues with fireworks. Our Department of Public Safety has been very busy in the evenings. Not so it's finally started to settle down, but especially that week, the week before, and last weekend, lots of fireworks, and definitely an ongoing issue. That's not an emergency. Just as a reminder, it's not a reason to call 911, but to call the non-emergency number from a DPS standpoint. And then as far as this week is concerned, I joined Assemblymember Mark Berman on Wednesday for a virtual coffee and conversation. It was kind of nice. This was, Assemblymember Berman has had usually office hour, or let's say town hall meetings within a coffee shop every year or so in the different cities in his district. Ours was the first of multiple that he will be having, and I'm hoping to see if we can get that posted online somewhere. Definitely, it's good to actually hear from the assembly member, and hear from our state representatives, having them answer some of the questions that people have provided. And so that was good. Most of the questions were kind of state level, but some of them, of course, were city level, and we'll hopefully get those posted. If we can't get them posted, I'll probably be answering some of those in this session, kind of doing a recall. I'm getting all those questions that were submitted. And then yesterday, Governor Newsom was standing next to a very dry reservoir. Basically he signed it was a press conference, and he signed an executive order encouraging all Californians to reduce water use by 15%. 50 of the 58 counties are now in a drought-related state of emergency. And the order is purely voluntary. He called for smaller measures, for such as taking shorter showers and watering lawns less frequently. I think he's a little hesitant to put in the real restrictions that are probably needed. This was one of actually might have been our driest rainy season on record. But he can encourage residents to visit the state's Save Our Water website. So that's saveourwater.com for water conservation tips. He didn't discuss whether mandatory restrictions would be required in the future, but said that Californians are now using less water than they did back in prior to the last drought. So, the 2013 to 2016 drought. And so that was when the last time the state had mandatory restrictions. And so I do think that he is hesitant, especially with the recall election, to put in mandatory restrictions, and is trying to push all the counties. The Santa Clara Water District imposed mandatory water usage restrictions of 15% compared to 2019 levels. And our city will be adding something. We already have kind of an ordinance regarding our water restrictions. We'll be doing something a little more formal at the end of the month, and I'll be talking about that in a minute. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly numbers from a COVID standpoint. And nationally, cases and hospitalizations continue to drop, although the number of new cases, we had about another 100,000 cases in the last week, so we're now at 33.6 million. And and a lot of those are the new Delta variant, so more than half of those are the Delta variant, which is a little more transmissible. But nationally, we've now surpassed 183 million vaccinated with at least one dose. So that's 67.3% of adults, and 59% of adults are fully vaccinated. So, that's been fantastic. Deaths continue to rise at 604,000 deaths, about almost 2,000 in the last week. But from a California standpoint, we're still about 3.7 million positive cases, still about 1,500 cases a day now, but it's one of the lowest rates in the nation. We've had over 63,000 fatalities. But on a positive note, we've now have over 42.2 million vaccines administered, and about 500,000 just in the last week. So just as far as the number of people vaccinated, California still stays, no, we actually moved to number 10 on states with residents with at least one dose, which is 58.8%, and we're at number 18 on states with residents that are fully vaccinated, with 75.4% of adults currently vaccinated. So, that's fantastic. So we're now, the state is at 70, about 3/4 of our residents, of our adults, are now fully vaccinated. From a county standpoint, you know, the number of cases, confirmed cases, continues to go down. There's still some cases, but it's, you know, it's still at 119,000, almost 120,000. It's up about only 400 from a week ago. So we're only having, you know, a handful of cases every day, of people that are being testing positive from COVID-19. We've had 1,698 deaths in the county, and that's actually a drop. So I want to talk a little bit about that. You know, that number was at 2,201 cases as of last Friday. And then last Friday, the county came out and said that it was going to actually recalculate the numbers for deaths. And, you know, previously, you know, and it dropped for about a quarter last Friday, mainly because the county recast its methodology for how it counts deaths. And it follows a similar move that Alameda County did in early June also. But you know, for the last year and a half, the county health officials tracked and publicized deaths with COVID, and that meant that anybody who had coronavirus when he or she died was considered part of that death toll. And I think that's the way most counties have been doing it. They haven't, you know, because of the focus on just trying to make sure that people get vaccinated or testing or whatever, it wasn't spending as much time kind of evaluating what that death was. And so, you know, even if a county resident had cancer, was hit by a car, but tested positive when receiving medical care, or was pronounced, or after being pronounced dead, they were basically added to the county's toll as far as those people who had died related to COVID. So, you know, now officials only will count those which the coronavirus was listed as part of the cause of death on the death certificate. So, you know, this is so it's simple. You know, it was more readily available now. You know that the surge has passed, that the county health officials can look at the data more discriminately. But that was one of the reasons why we saw our death count actually drop. And you know, as far as the last week, no one in the county has died from COVID-19. So that's all a very positive thing from that standpoint. And then from a vaccination standpoint, you know, 82% of the county has over age 12 has received at least one dose, and 75% of those 12 and older are fully vaccinated. So, you know, looking even at the younger age, at those 12 and older, we're doing actually a lot better than a lot of counties across the state and nation. And then as far as, you know, counties above 1.5 million, we're number one as far as those that have been vaccinated. And, you know, I continue to do a lot of advocating on our city's behalf, you know, talking to their county supervisors, county health, you know, as far as testing. If you need to find a location to get tested, please visit sccfreetest.org. If you need to get vaccinated, you know, you can always go to sccfreevax.org. But you know, from that standpoint, you know, the El Camino Health closed down the vaccination site that it had on Maud Avenue a few weeks ago. You can still go to El Camino Health to itself to get vaccinated. The city's also trying to help those that haven't been vaccinated and have been, you know, staying at home to get vaccinated. So if you're a senior, if you know of a senior that hasn't been able to get vaccinated, you know, there are care managers at the city senior center that are assisting those people that are still kind of home-based, homebound, to get vaccinated. And so, you know, they'll help set up. So if you need, all you need to do is contact our senior center and then they will help uh, set up an appointment for the county's in-home vaccination service. So all you need to do is call 408 730 7360, and then our care service technicians, our city staff will ultimately help set up those appointments and make sure that the county health man will actually be able to visit you at your home. So I think that's been a very positive sort of thing. I've also been working with the county, and we'll be talking to the county later this morning on setting up an evening pop-up event on Murphy Avenue, and we'll hopefully be announcing that in the next week or so. But we'll try to do it in conjunction with the live music on Murphy, just so that we actually have a lot of people down on Murphy Avenue, so people can feel safe, they can get vaccinated. But I think that will be a positive thing, and hopefully we'll have a big announcement about that next week. As far as some upcoming events, our next city council meeting is next Tuesday, and our big item for the evening will be talking about the housing strategy implementation, and this is a portion of our housing strategy, but this is our draft mobile home park community memorandum of understanding. And so this is the kind of the ongoing. And so last fall, we directed staff to work with the stakeholders, so a group of landlords, so the mobile home community owners and the mobile home community residents, and so stakeholders from both of those groups meeting, talking about different things that they would like to see in an MOU. The biggest thing is an annual rent, and what that annual rent increase would be on a per space basis. 75% CPI, Consumer Price Index, for the Bay Area, or 3% increase. And so this is what's the standard increase. I think that's one of the biggest issues. It's also, the second issue is how much rent goes up. So how much space rent goes up when somebody sells. So when somebody new moves in, and there's a wide variety on the different mobile home communities for people that have been there for a long period of time. So you're ranging from $800 to more than $2,500 per space, depending upon what that is. And a lot of times, a lot of the landlords increase that quite a bit when a new person came in. And so what that increase is one of the kind of the big questions. Does it go up dramatically? What that percentage is can go up when somebody new purchases that home. That's one of the big questions, and that's been one of the sticking points as far as this is concerned. And then on Tuesday, July 27th, Council will adopt the resolution declaring the Stage 1 water supply shortage. And so that's when we'll talk more about what the measures are and what the fines will be from a city standpoint for those that are basically misusing water. And the other thing that we'll be doing on Tuesday the 27th is we'll be adopting a resolution to basically temporarily allow outdoor dining on private parking lots, and closing historic Murphy Avenue until December, to the end of December. So that will be discussed at the council level. So this is your chance to give feedback. I've heard a lot of positive things from residents who want it extended. We will, I think definitely council at that point will be talking about, closing it permanently and what needs to be done. This has been one of the big issues. It's never as easy as you think it's going to be. And so there's certain other issues that if the council gives direction to permanently close that, then there's fire access. It's the size of the width. It's how much of the street is actually available for outdoor seating. How much of a thoroughfare down the center of the street needs to be there, other things of that nature, need to be evaluated. Who does street cleaning? How often does it happen? Who pays for that additional space if that's no longer considered public space, but now private space for those restaurants. So there's lots of issues that need to be resolved from that standpoint. But that will be the discussion that we'll have on that meeting. And then Tuesday, August 3rd is National Night Out. And so we didn't have it last year, but this is the yearly kind of neighborhood socialization event. It always happens the first Tuesday in August. Our public safety, fire engines, motorcycle officers, and just canine officers go from neighborhood block party to neighborhood block party. Our council members are out there also, and it's a great way to meet your neighbors if you haven't met them already. And so, if your neighborhood isn't planning anything yet, definitely reach out. There's a notification from the website. The public safety has actually reached out to the different neighborhood associations and asked them if they're going to be scheduling anything. Definitely after the last 15 months, it's been kind of not being able to see neighbors, not being able to socially meet with them, and I think people miss that social interaction. So this is, I think, a great time to get out, and hopefully people are vaccinated or wearing masks, but it's all outdoors, and I think it's always a good event from that standpoint. You get to meet your neighbors, and I get to meet a lot of the residents around the city, so it's actually good from that standpoint. Let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. Dawn asked, I saw the news about all the earthquakes that happened in the Sierras. What is Sunnyvale doing to be prepared for the next big earthquake? So, Sunnyvale has, from an emergency operations plan, has plans for action for all kinds of disasters. But the best thing, of course, is for you to be prepared. Sunnyvale also provides classes. They have a personal emergency preparedness class that is basically, it's about a 2-hour class to show you everything that you should do to be prepared. And the next one of those is at the end of July. So I think July 29th. So yeah, if you want to sign up for that, you can go to the city's website and you can search for CERT or emergency preparedness. So that's a 2-hour class to just kind of give you, here's your laundry list of things that you should do to prepare your family for if there was if the next big emergency happens. And then there's also our CERT classes. So that's our community emergency response team, and we hold those about 3 to 4 times a year, depending upon interest. And so this is a 7-week class. So it's one night a week for 7 weeks, and then a final exercise on a Saturday. And that next class starts at the end of August. And so I went through that class many years ago, and it's a fantastic way to be better prepared for that emergency. You get some good information. We have a great group of CERT volunteers. Have hundreds of CERT volunteers throughout the city, and I think that those volunteers actually come back and help train those next set of people that are going through the class. You can go back and volunteer. I go back and volunteer to be a victim, a walking victim after the emergency for that final exercise. So it's actually a lot of fun, but it gives you a lot of good information on what you can do to prepare your household, your family, when that next emergency happens. Rachel asked, is Sunnyvale ever going to have good shopping center or mall again with popular stores, not just hair and nail salons? So, much of the shopping, and especially during COVID, has happened online, and a lot of big box stores continue to kind of shrink, close the number of stores that they have around the country. That being said, we do have some new stores that are opening. Ulta Beauty So providing cosmetics and skincare will be opening right across from Whole Foods downtown next week. They're starting up their soft opening. And then REI will be opening in the fall at the old Toys R Us location. You know, the city constantly kind of works with uh, different big box stores, trying to get them to have, a location within our city. And then, City Line is also courting multiple clothing stores, shoe stores, cookware stores. So hopefully that moves forward, as the mall continues that whole City Line area, mixed use, retail, residential, and office space makes a great community to have that mixture of retail. And so you'll start seeing, before the end of the year, several restaurants opening, and they're working on the interiors of several stores that they're currently trying to finalize. So, and as well as additional housing, so additional apartments that will be opening up on Iowa as part of that City Line project. So definitely, we try to attract places to shop. It's always in the city's best interest from a sales tax standpoint, but so much shopping is now done online that it makes that a little difficult. Cindy asked what will replace Macy's. So demolition is finished, although they're still clearing that site, but it'll be replaced with retail on the bottom, so that'll be more retail, and then 6 floors of office space above, and it also not just that building, but it splits that building into 2 buildings, so that Francis, as you're going south from the Caltrain station, you have the Caltrain station. Francis will then go into an underground parking, as well as a big pedestrian plaza that will lead into Redwood Square. So yeah, I've seen the designs. It actually looks good, but it will have that mixed use feel, as well as additional retail, additional office space that creates that community of activity downtown. Evelyn asked, when is the Washington Park Swim Center opening? That should be before the end of this month, and definitely excuse me, definitely with all the hot weather, I'm sure people will love having another pool there within the city, and that also has a splash pad for the kids. There's definitely been delays because of some issues with some of the pool equipment, and this is I've heard this from multiple projects of having delays because of supply chain issues, and so these are finally being fixed, but it's getting that last equipment so that it can be open. It has a lot of good amenities, new locker rooms, new kind of community room, but I've went by there just yesterday, and it looks fantastic. The new buildings, and it feels a lot more open. But there is some equipment that still needs to be finalized in order for us to fill up that pool and have people enjoying that. Shaker asked, who can we call to get immediate attention to road potholes and other similar issues? If you see a pothole, please report it. It's very easy on the Sunnyvale website. If you go to sunnyvale.ca.gov, you'll see a Sunnyvale access link at the top, and that's the easiest place to list what the address is, as best as you know it. You can actually even submit a photo if you want, but that's the easiest way to enter that information, so that the city can go out, evaluate whether or not they can do a quick fix, or does it take additional effort. You can also call Public Works at 408-730-7506. I just reported a pothole, I think about 2 weeks ago and went back and saw that it had been patched over. But a continual thing, and if you do that Sunnyvale Access, you can report all the other issues that you see. Is it a stoplight that's out? Is it a street light that's out? Cracked sidewalks? Any of those sorts of issues that you have, as well as cars that have been abandoned or anything of that nature. Let's see. Any other questions? Angela asked, what can we do to keep Murphy Avenue closed to car traffic indefinitely? Palo Alto closed it, their University Avenue, and at least portions of it, until the end of September. Mountain View closed it till the beginning of January. Menlo Park closed at the beginning of January. We'll be looking at that at our meeting at the end of July. But definitely hearing from our residents. So if you want to drop an email to council@sunnyvale.ca.gov, you can definitely do that in preparation for that July 27th meeting on your take on whether or not it should be kept closed, or whether or not it should be reopened, or anything from that standpoint. But we'll be talking about at that meeting whether or not to close it until beginning of January, end of December, and then what other direction we might end up providing. Francis asked, is live music coming back to Murphy Avenue this summer? And yes, absolutely. People are really looking forward to being in person and having that live music again. We have, a DJ there Wednesday and Thursday nights now, but for the month of August, we'll have Wednesday night rock and Saturday night jazz. So yes, music is coming back. Live music is coming back to Murphy Avenue, and that list of artists is already on the Sunnyvale Downtown Association's website. So you can take a look at that if you want. Jeff asked, will there be an art and wine festival this year? And yes, that is coming the weekend of October 2nd and 3rd, so Saturday and Sunday. It'll be a little bit less than usual this year, but definitely the Chamber of Commerce is planning that event, and they're planning a Murphy Awards event for those of you that know about the Murphy Awards, but they're also planning that the art and wine festival that so many people look forward to every year. Nancy asked, do you know if and when the local Blinum apricots will be on sale at the community center again this year? And so yes, they're on sale. They were on sale last week, and I think it'll be about another week that they're still in season. So you have about another week to go and pick them up. You can pick them up at the community center parking lot. There was a good article in the San Jose Mercury News last weekend, I think Saturday or Sunday, about Charlie Olson and his care for that orchard for so many years. But yeah, this is Sunnyvale's, so it's Sunnyvale land that we set aside for that apricot orchard, and Charlie continues to maintain it for the city. Guess that's about it. Let's go ahead and wrap up. Let's see. Any questions? No. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me again this week. I'm always proud of Sunnyvale and our response to the pandemic over the last year. The future is still uncertain. Things might get worse come the fall. New issues come up from a city standpoint all the time, but your actions really have made a difference. You've done your best to shelter in place. You've gotten your vaccinations. So I really look forward to how our community rebuilds. Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together. We'll get through this together. Thanks for listening. Have a great weekend. Take care. Of course, stay cool. And I'll see you next week. Take care. Goodbye.